when your pink slip becomes your launch pad, the untold truth about Black women and entrepreneurship. Good evening. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Demetrius Rayford, a visionary whose work is fundamentally reshaping how we understand entrepreneurship, resilience, and the untold stories of Black women in America. Demetrius is not just an observer of change, they are a catalyst for it. Through their research, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to truth telling, they have illuminated the paths of countless Black women who refuse to be invisible, who refuse to be silenced, and who are building empires from the ground up, often with nothing more than determination and a dream. Their impact on making the world a better place is undeniable. And today I want to share with you the profound insights they offered me, insights that will challenge everything you thought you knew about entrepreneurship, choice, and what it truly means to rise. We live in a world that loves a good success story. We celebrate the entrepreneur who quits their job, follows their passion, and builds a thriving business from scratch. We applaud the courage it takes to step away from the safety of a paycheck and into the uncertainty of self employment. We frame entrepreneurship as the ultimate expression of freedom, creativity, and ambition. And in many ways, it is. But here's what we don't talk about enough. Here's the uncomfortable truth that Demetrius Rayford helped me see with startling clarity. For Black women in America, entrepreneurship is not always a choice, it is often a necessity. It is not always about chasing a dream, it is frequently about escaping a nightmare. Let me say that again because it's important. The surge in Black women's entrepreneurship, the fact that Black women are now the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in this country, is not just a story of ambition or creativity. It is a direct response to being systematically pushed out of corporate spaces that undervalue their contributions, overlook their leadership, and hand them pink slips while less qualified counterparts receive golden parachutes. In 2025 alone, over 300,000 Black women exited the workforce. 300,000. That's not a statistic. That's a crisis. That's 300,000 mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, 300,000 brilliant minds, 300,000 leaders who were told in one way or another that they didn't belong. And what did these women do? They didn't disappear. They didn't give up. They didn't accept the narrative that their worth was determined by systems designed to exclude them. They turned their pain into power. They turned their rejection into reinvention. They became entrepreneurs, not because the system opened doors for them, but because the system slammed doors in their faces and they decided to build their own. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't entrepreneurship empowering? Isn't it a good thing that these women are starting businesses? And yes, absolutely. It is empowering. It is courageous. It is inspiring. But here's the twist, the counterintuitive truth that we must wrestle with. When entrepreneurship is born out of exclusion, when it is a response to systemic failure rather than genuine opportunity, we cannot simply celebrate it without also confronting the structures that made it necessary in the first place. Think about it this way. Imagine you're a highly educated, deeply talented Black woman working in corporate America. You've earned your degrees. You've put in the hours. You've exceeded expectations. You've shown up early, stayed late, and delivered results that others couldn't dream of achieving. And yet, you watch as promotions go to others. You watch as your ideas are dismissed in meetings only to be praised when a colleague repeats them verbatim 2 weeks later. You watch as layoffs disproportionately target people who look like you, while mediocrity is rewarded with second chances and severance packages you'll never see. Eventually, you realize something. The system was never designed for you to win. It was designed for you to serve, to support, to make others look good while you remain in the shadows. So you leave, not because you want to, but because staying means accepting a reality where your worth is perpetually questioned, your contributions perpetually minimized, your humanity perpetually negotiable. You leave and you start your own business. You become an entrepreneur, and the world celebrates you for your courage. But let's be honest, that's not courage, that's survival. Demetrius Rayford shared with me insights that bring this reality into devastating focus. Essence magazine profiled the rise of Black women leaving traditional jobs and launching businesses in response to job loss and systemic inequities. The women in these stories were not dilettantes dabbling in side hustles. They were professionals, many with advanced degrees, who found themselves unemployed despite their qualifications. They faced higher unemployment rates than their white counterparts, significantly higher. They encountered workplaces that offered little support, little mentorship, and even less opportunity for advancement. And when they tried to secure startup capital to launch their businesses, they were met with rejection after rejection, forced to self fund their dreams because the financial system deemed them too risky, too unproven, too other. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually looks like. Picture a Black woman with an MBA from a top tier university. She spent 15 years in corporate America, climbing the ladder, building relationships, delivering results. Then one day, she's called into a meeting. Budget cuts, they say, restructuring, they explain. It's not personal, they assure her. But somehow it always is. She walks out of that building with a box of her belongings and a severance package that won't last 3 months. She applies to dozens of jobs, hundreds. Her resume is impeccable. Her references are glowing, but the callbacks never come. Or when they do, she makes it to the final round only to watch the position go to someone with half her experience and twice her confidence. So she makes a decision. She's going to bet on herself. She's going to start her own consulting firm. She's going to take everything she learned in those 15 years and build something that can't be taken away from her. She goes to the bank for a small business loan. She has a solid business plan. She has clients ready to sign. She has savings she's willing to invest. But the loan officer looks at her application and sees risk, sees uncertainty, sees someone who doesn't fit the profile of what a successful entrepreneur looks like. The loan is denied. So she uses her savings, all of it. She works a part time job on the side to keep the lights on. She builds her business one client at a time, one late night at a time, one sacrifice at a time. And you know what? She succeeds. She builds a thriving business. She creates jobs. She serves her community. She becomes part of that statistic we love to celebrate. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. But here's what that statistic doesn't tell you: it doesn't tell you that she's working 80-hour weeks. It doesn't tell you that her business generates a fraction of the revenue of white male owned businesses in the same industry. It doesn't tell you that she's still struggling to access capital, still fighting to be taken seriously, still proving herself over and over again in ways her white male counterparts never have to. This is the reality that Demetrius Rayford is forcing us to confront, and yet, these women persist. They build businesses, they create community support systems, they leverage digital platforms to gain visibility and tell their own stories. They became the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. But here's the kicker: Despite this growth, despite this resilience, the average revenue of Black women owned businesses remains far below that of white male owned businesses, far below. These women are working harder, overcoming more obstacles, navigating more barriers, and still earning less. They are building empires on shoestring budgets with no safety nets, no venture capital, no golden parachutes to catch them if they fall. So, yes, we should celebrate their accomplishments. We should honor their resilience, but we must also ask ourselves, why are we forcing Black women to be superheroes just to survive? Why are we applauding their ability to thrive in conditions that would break most people instead of dismantling the conditions that make such resilience necessary? This is the uncomfortable truth that Demetrius Rayford wants us to sit with. Entrepreneurship among Black women is frequently a response to systemic exclusion and instability in traditional workplaces, not just a pursuit of passion or independence. It is a reaction to being undervalued, overlooked, and pushed out. And until we address the root causes, until we confront the inequities in hiring, promotion, funding, and support, we are simply celebrating symptoms while ignoring the disease. Now, let's talk about what it actually takes to build a business as a Black woman in America, because the challenges don't end when you leave corporate America. In many ways, they intensify, they multiply, they become more insidious because now you're not just fighting a system, you're fighting an entire ecosystem designed to keep you out. Building a business as a Black woman often requires self funding and overcoming higher rejection rates for loans, making resilience and resourcefulness not just helpful skills, but essential survival mechanisms. Let me break that down with cold hard facts. When a Black woman applies for a business loan, she is more likely to be denied than her white male counterpart, even when her business plan is stronger, even when her credit is better, even when her track record is more impressive. The data is clear. The bias is real. The numbers don't lie. Studies show that Black women receive less than 1% of venture capital funding, less than 1%. Think about that. In a country where we claim to value innovation, where we celebrate disruption, where we champion the entrepreneurial spirit, Black women who are starting businesses at rates higher than any other demographic receive crumbs. And so, Black women entrepreneurs are forced to bootstrap, to scrape together savings, to rely on friends and family, to work second and third jobs just to keep their businesses afloat. This is not a level playing field. This is not equal opportunity. This is a system that demands Black women prove themselves over and over again, while others are given the benefit of the doubt from day one. This is a system that asks Black women to be perfect while allowing others to fail upward. And yet they do it. They find a way. They build businesses that serve their communities, that create jobs, that fill gaps in the market that others have ignored or deemed unprofitable. They do it because they have no other choice. They do it because giving up is not an option. They do it because they refuse to let a broken system define their worth or limit their potential. But here's what Demetrius Rayford emphasized to me, and what I want you to take away from this talk: visibility and consistency, especially in digital spaces, are critical for Black women entrepreneurs to shape narratives, build networks, and ensure their leadership is recognized and amplified. In a world that has historically silenced Black women, that has erased their contributions, that has stolen their ideas and given credit to others, visibility is not just important, it is essential. It is a form of resistance. It is a way of saying, I am here, I am doing this, and you will not ignore me. You will not erase me. You will not pretend I don't exist. Digital platforms have become a lifeline for Black women entrepreneurs. social media, podcasts, blogs, online communities. These are the spaces where Black women are telling their own stories, building their own audiences, and creating their own opportunities. They are not waiting for permission from gatekeepers who have historically excluded them. They are not waiting for validation from systems that have never valued them. They are showing up consistently, authentically, and powerfully. And this consistency matters because in a world that wants to tokenize Black women, that wants to celebrate one and ignore the thousands of others, consistency is how you build credibility. Consistency is how you build trust. Consistency is how you build a movement. But visibility is not just the responsibility of Black women entrepreneurs. It is the responsibility of all of us. If you are in a position of influence, if you have a platform, if you have resources, you have a responsibility to amplify Black women's voices, to invest in their businesses, to mentor them, to open doors, to ensure that their leadership is recognized and celebrated, to make sure that when opportunities arise, Black women are not just considered, but prioritized. This is not charity. This is justice. This is what equity looks like in action. This is what it means to dismantle systems of oppression rather than simply acknowledging they exist. So here's what I need you to hear. Here's what I need you to understand. The story of Black women's entrepreneurship is not just a story of resilience, it is a story of resistance. It is a story of refusal, a refusal to accept less, a refusal to be invisible, a refusal to let a broken system define what is possible. And that refusal, that's where the revolution begins. Because when 300,000 Black women walk out of corporate America in a single year, that's not just an employment trend, that's a reckoning, that's a collective awakening, that's a generation of women saying, enough. We will no longer participate in systems that devalue us. We will no longer accept crumbs when we've baked the entire cake. We will no longer wait for seats at tables that were never meant for us. We're building our own tables. And we're inviting everyone who believes in equity, in justice, in true opportunity to join us. So here's my challenge to you. Stop celebrating Black women's entrepreneurship as if it exists in a vacuum. Stop acting like it's purely a triumph of individual will and grit. Start acknowledging the systemic forces that push Black women out of traditional workplaces and into entrepreneurship. Start naming the inequities in hiring, promotion, and funding. Start holding institutions accountable. If you're an investor, fund Black women owned businesses, not as a diversity initiative, not as a box to check, but because it's smart business, because Black women are building innovative companies that serve underserved markets, because betting on Black women is betting on the future. If you're a consumer, support Black women owned businesses intentionally, consistently. Tell your friends, write reviews, spread the word. Your dollars are votes for the kind of economy you want to see. If you're a policymaker, create programs that provide access to capital, mentorship, and resources, remove barriers, level the playing field, make it easier, not harder, for Black women to succeed. And if you're a Black woman listening to this right now, know this: your pink slip was not a verdict on your worth. It was a liberation. It was the universe pushing you toward your purpose. It was the beginning of your empire, not the end of your story. Build your business, tell your story, show up consistently, and know that you are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of us, and we are building something that cannot be stopped. The sky is not the limit for Black women. It never has been, because Black women have always been reaching beyond the sky, building rockets out of scraps, launching themselves into spaces that were never designed for them, and rewriting the rules along the way. So let's stop handing out pink slips and start building parachutes, real ones, golden ones, the kind that catch people when they fall and lift them higher higher than they ever imagined, because that's what justice looks like. That's what equity demands, and that's what Black women deserve. Now go, invest, amplify, support, dismantle, build, and never, ever underestimate the power of a Black woman with a pink slip and a dream. Thank you.